Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name is Thomas, joined again by Owen Parks. Today we're going to be giving you a match preview for our game against Newcastle. Obviously, a team that's kind of bereft of confidence at the minute. Steve Bruce he's really struggling to put again a string of any kind of results together. They've been on quite the losing streak. They haven't actually won a game. This year they are really struggling for form. But obviously, we know at St James's Park they managed to do one over on us. We did struggle on that day with injuries. We played this very strange formation with a lot of central midfielders, and it was effectively, I'd say, one of our worst performances in a pretty horrible game to watch. But we know that they can pull a result out against us. Is what I'm trying to say there. But just kind of looking at Newcastle's form here. Obviously, last game against Leeds, they lost 2-1. It was a more positive performance in the second half, but you do kind of get that every now and then. But they haven't. They weren't scoring. They obviously went on a streak of not scoring for 4 games in the league and cup, including games against Villa, Arsenal, Sheffield United, which was the really shocking result when they managed to lose that. Obviously, Manchester United lost there as well last night, so maybe Sheffield United picking up a bit of a run. But Owen, I don't know what your thoughts are initially on this game. Surely it just has to be 3 points.
Yeah, it's a game where which Everton have got to win. In terms of Newcastle, they're struggling at the moment to get it right at both ends. I think they're struggling to really put goals down. I think Callum Wilson's come in, and apart from the odd one, I don't think he's a great player, to be honest. I think he's a good striker. He knows where the net is, but he's not. He can easily beat that with his points. Jolin, what about Jolin? He doesn't seem to have settled in Newcastle. Andy Carroll's sort of the plan B just to get in the box for him. Dwight Gale comes on every now and again. It's coupled with a who's who of Almiron, Maxim, and Steve Bruce hasn't really got any of them clicking, I would say. And then defensively, they haven't been as strong as they were last season, so it's really difficult for them. They're in a bad run of form. I expect them to stay in the Premier League still, even though they're in that form. I can imagine getting the results at some point and doing enough, but it's difficult for them. Obviously, it's especially difficult when you're trying to manage a team where the fans expect to win the treble every season and do it in style. So the expectations of the fans obviously have been too much for too long now, considering their ownership and what they can really realistically expect to be under their ownership. But I think Steve Bruce has fallen foul of that. I like Steve Bruce. I think he's especially good in the EFL. I don't know about him in the Premier League anymore, but it's going to be a tough game because they seem to have the knack of pulling results out against us. But from our point of view, we need to be strong and find enough moments creatively to sort of put them to the sword, like Aston Villa did last week, where they really were just too much for them.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because when I saw Newcastle's transfer window, I think they did some pretty solid business. As you mentioned, Callum Wilson there, he can score goals. He can also be contained. He's kind of one of those, and that was solid business. I thought Ryan Fraser on a free. I'm not sure I would have taken him, but I think Ryan Fraser probably found his level.
I wouldn't have taken Ryan Fraser to clean the Goodison Park toilets.
Yeah, I mean the way he left Bournemouth was obviously just. I mean, personally, I thought it was a disgrace.
I thought I don't know how he's done, but I thought Jeff Hendrick was a good signing on a free. He could fit into the system very easily, and they struggled, I think, for a midfield who could defend really, because they got Shelby and Longstaff who do nothing really. And so I thought Hendrick might have done well. I don't know how he's done, but he certainly did well at Burnley. So I thought he did some solid business. It just hasn't materialised.
Yeah, and obviously they also brought in Jamal Lewis, who I think has kind of struggled for form. Really, obviously there's massive expectation at Newcastle, and I think he's struggled since coming in. But clearly, I think Bruce has really struggled with kind of replicating the same tactics this season. They seem to keep chopping and changing quite a lot. He clearly doesn't know what his best side is, and I'm sure that's not really helping them in a relegation fight. You definitely need more consistency than kind of just constantly chopping and changing, bringing in players, changing your defense over and over again. I mean, our worst form, our worst run of the season, was when we were forced into making these kind of defensive changes, and we couldn't seem to keep a clean sheet, say the life of us. But do you agree there that they've struggled from a lot of tactical inconsistency?
Well, you say they played Liverpool and they drew 0-0, and it
Mm.
was ultra defensive, but they got a point. They could have set them up. But I remember after that game and after another game recently, Steve Bruce sort of finally, for the first time, sort of wilted the defence and said, "We've been defending deep in it and teams on the counter attacks and to been here. Now we're going to do it my way." Well, I would argue that his new way is a lot worse than what the previous way was, because they've looked even worse since then. Where they've got it looks like Ronald Koeman's Everton since he's changed to his way. I don't know what the previous way was, but it was a lot better than whatever he's saying his way is. So I think he should just go back to the old way and have nothing more said about it.
It was a bit of an interesting meltdown. He did have in the press saying that, the gloves are coming off and he's going to be playing football his own way. I mean, I'm not really sure who was telling Steve Bruce to play the way that he was playing, but it's clearly not working the way he's allegedly changed it. And this is a game again. We just have to be winning at the end of the day. But it's going to be a very different game in terms of the Leicester match that we just played. We're going to have to set up very differently, and we've kind of seen a bit of a formula in games that we have had to set up defensively, where we've seen Lucas Digne kind of playing that left midfield role a couple of times. We know that we're a side who can set off and hit teams on the counter attack, but when we've come up against defensively solid, when we've come up against teams who are defending like Newcastle, like Sheffield United, we kind of have struggled. So how do you expect us to set up, and what do you expect to be the key to this game?
I I would. It's a difficult one because you don't want to go sort of too open, and then if you're on the break and you've sort of abandoned sort of your defensive stoicness. But on the other hand, you need to fit more creative players in to be able to break them down. I would probably go for a version of 4-4-1-1, but it'd be a bit more fluid. So I'd probably go Olsen and goal. I'd go Ben Godfrey right back, Keane Mean and Dean left back, Decore and Davies in the midfield, Hammers number 10, Richarlison off the right, Richarlison off the left, Iwobi off the right, and Calvert-Lewin in front is what I'd probably go.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I think Hammers is going to be absolutely essential because in the games where we were struggling to break down these defensively solid side was of course the time where Hammers was injured, and we're basically going to need him to get us into the game.
If we can get Hammers, Iwobi, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin on the same pitch with Dean as a left back, I do think we can cause them a lot of issues.
I think, especially with Dean coming in at left back, I think that's really going to help us. Of course, he did have that patch of games, those patches of games where he was out, and even though Godfrey and Holgate did very well at fullback, they're clearly not natural fullbacks and don't have the kind of delivery on them. Even though, I mean, last night against Leicester, I think Holgate he delivered a couple of pretty decent crosses, and I think a player we do have to be concerned about is Alan St-Maximin. He's their best player. It's very simple to say, and he's been out. He had COVID. It affected him in the long term, but he's kind of been making his way back into the side. He's been coming on as a substitute, maybe at half time or later on in games. It's a player I'm very concerned about because if they are going to set off us and counter attack, he's absolutely the player to do it. I mean, if Bruce has been playing this counter attack in football without St-Maximin, you can really see where Newcastle have been struggling. Really, they haven't really been able to get out of their own half at all. And with him back, I am concerned, but I'm pretty hopeful. Bearing in mind if we have kind of Alan back, I think Alan is back for the Newcastle game. Actually, I think he was only missing the Leicester game, and Decore will be back.
Well, if that's the case, I'd put the pair of them in and not play Davies. But we'll see. I think that's why I've gone for Ben Godfrey right back, because Maximin plays off the left, and I think Godfrey's recovery place against him can really help us just win the ball back and go again. So I would go Godfrey instead of even Holgate or Coleman.
Yeah, probably. I'd definitely stick Godfrey in the team, but I would probably take Holgate out for that more natural fullback. And in terms of our season as a whole, we did obviously pick up that solid point against Leicester, and we mentioned it before. If that point against Leicester is going to be the foundation of our season, these are absolutely the games we have to be picking up points in if we're going to push on for European football.
No, it's a must-win game for me, because when you play in a team bereft of any confidence, you've got to take advantage of them. A couple of early goals and then control the game. And hopefully that's how it goes. But it's never easy in the Premier League.
I mean, just looking at their injuries here, though, they are going to be without Paul Dummett, who I think's been injured for a while. Kieran Clark might be injured as well, and Federico Fernandez.
How will they continue without Paul Dummett?
But I mean, they are a few of their kind of key defensive players that will be out. So in terms of the defensive solidity,
Fernandez injured.
Yeah, he is.
I like him. I think he's a decent centre back, so I think he'd give it a chance.
And even Kieran Clark's been
Yeah,
pretty solid for them as well. But this claims that he does have questionable fitness, so we'll have to see how they're going to set up. We know they're going to set up defensively regardless, but the onus is on us to kind of attack them. I mean, I was going to say, especially with it being at home, but at the end of the day, does that even matter these days? There's no fans there to watch.
home or away, we should be trying to kill Newcastle off.
Yeah, that's very true. And 3 points here would really set us up for the rest of the season, and then hopefully against Leeds in midweek. So I don't know if you've got anything else to add in terms of how we might set up, or any predictions you have for the game.
I'm going to edge on the side of confidence and go with 2-11 and win. But as everyone knows, I've not been doing Everton predicting to win games all season, and it's worked quite well. So we'll see. But I expect us to beat Newcastle comfortably, but it doesn't always work out like that. They're going to set up to be deep and compact, or they might play Bruce's new way. I don't know if they do. I'm rubbing my hands together, to be honest. But I expect them to be defensively stoic and trying to hit us on the break. And we've got to be alive to the threat on the break, but we've also got to control the game and try and beat them comfortably.
Yeah, and something else we should actually just add before we end. Of course, they have just signed Graham Jones as a coach, former Roberto Martinez deputy.
Well, now Graham Jones has gone there. I fully expect Newcastle to be relegated, so we'll just have to see.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. They do seem to have a lot of kind of assistant managers there. I think that's the third one they've got, interestingly enough. But
John as well, didn't he, at some point?
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I don't know if under Bruce, but he did under Pardew. And he describes himself as the best manager in the Premier League.
Oh, yeah, John Cole, yeah.
Yeah. He came up with the famous quote, "Of course, we'd like to win, but it's all about the 3 points." So we'll take John's word for it.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the video. I am confident going into this game as long as we keep players like Hammers fit who are going to unlock that defensively solid Newcastle side. But
who would they have in goal, Darlow or Dubravka? Because I know there's been a bit of debate about that.
I think Darlow's been playing most of their games. I know Dubravka was injured, then I think he came back, but I don't think he took Darlow straight out. I mean, just looking at their previous fixtures, Darlow's been starting for the past few weeks. So, I mean, I'm not really sure. I guess it's the instance if a keeper's in form, then you don't take him out. I'm not sure how much Darlow is in form. I don't watch too much of Newcastle, but I'd be more confident, with him in goal than Dubravka. But I mean, it does look like Darlow will carry on starting in goal. But that kind of does bring us to the end. So thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to check out all the Toffee Blues social media down below. Let's hope for 3 points. If we can build on that. I mean, just looking at the table in general, we're currently 1 point off Liverpool, who are playing today. I think at the time of recording, I think they're playing Tottenham. That's a massive game in terms of the teams above us, and we still do have games in hand. So 3 points in this game, and then Leeds only a few days after will be absolutely massive. So thank you all very much for watching, and join us next time on the Toffee Blues.